I'm Annie from SuperBee, and we are so happy to be working together with Happy Life during this month and more months for Plastic Free July. I started the business here 7 years ago, and we are a social enterprise in the sense that people and planet and profit are of equal importance. We also need profit to execute our mission as, helping the environment and people as well. So we don't say the people and planet are so much more important. It all has to work in together. And when you have a company here in Thailand, it's very difficult to get some kind of certification like fair trade or other similar things that show like a social and an environmental impact.
Right.
It was never like, I'm going to start a business. It just kind of happened by accident, I guess.
Yeah.
And and I found myself in this flow. It's kind of, I am known to be a little bit woo-woo and, I believe in energies and, the flow of the universe. And it just happened that I started to experiment. I remember my husband said he didn't see me very often in those months. I was just kind of a mad scientist I was buying fabric at the market and getting wax and then I created this product and I started to give it to my friends and sell it at like school markets because my kids were going to an international school here in Chiang Mai. And people really loved it. And it just kind of happened from there, I guess. We were really lucky because my husband's a programmer, so he built this small website for me. And then with a friend, I made a video and we launched the website with the video. It was July 30th, 2016. And I launched it. I'm also into astrology, so I looked like when is the best time to launch. And then in the morning when we woke up, it had more than 1 million views.
Wow.
Yeah, and by the end of that week, it was 5 million views. So it just exploded and went viral organically. Sometimes, I guess before I had a business, often I was skeptical of some certifications too, like some you can buy online even, and what is really the process and can we trust them? And then I found B Corp online, and then I started to investigate, and it was available for Thai companies. So this was really, first of all, the biggest and best news ever for me because, when we're exporting overseas to Europe and to the US, they want to have certifications. And B Corp now is available to, I think, pretty much the entire world. And so I started the process, I think maybe it was more than 2 years ago that I started.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a really long process, but it was extremely valuable to me and the business. Maybe you would understand when you start a business, you have like the concept in your mind and you instill that in the team and everybody knows what our mission is, but it's not necessarily written down always in black and white and what impact you have. And so B Corp kind of, you had to have like all these documents that we didn't actually have yet, even though we were kind of doing it. And I have to say, it was kind of frustrating. I'm like, really, I'm doing it. Do I really have to? I'm so busy working. Do I really have it? But I had to do it. It's great. Like, it's just simple things like an organogram to show your, the structure of your business and things. And so a lot of our suppliers, like for example, our packaging is also run by a minority. They're run by Karen people. And so they would be considered like underserved. So you had to submit all of your underserved suppliers or minority suppliers, which are most of our suppliers actually, which it was kind of nice to have it all on paper. So, and then it was like also testing like the carbon footprint, how much of our suppliers come locally, how much we're spending on electricity and so on and so on. And, to come out with we had a really high score, over 80%, which is very high for B Corp, and just kind of putting it all together. And then they have a kind of interview process to when the business launched. At that time, when I needed to find help to make the product, because with all those million views, we obviously got more orders. And then I started to search for, in particular, like single moms and people who really needed a job in my community here. I live about an hour outside of Chiang Mai in the mountains, and there aren't many job opportunities here. So that's kind of part of our social impact, but also discovering that many people are not even paid the minimum wage, and it's not fair how they're valued by employers. So this is something that I've really strived to create, fair wages and a good, safe environment where I want to nurture my employees and empower them. And of course, with COVID, when sales went down, I also had the awful experience of having to let some people go, which was heartbreaking. But since then, I've got most of them back, so that's really good. So during COVID, we had to cut staff, and we had to then target supermarkets more. We support the local firefighters. Okay. You probably have heard, but Chiang Mai has a really awful smoky season, and there's fires, and it's has numerous causes. Some of which I don't really feel like saying so much, but some of them are very it's a very unjust situation with the fires. It's not okay, and it's really hard to stop and hard to change. And the firefighters are not supported. So I think 4 or 5 years ago, there's a fire station right near SuperBee, and I went there, and we were first of all providing food like lunches and drinks and paying for them to eat, and all of the firefighters are volunteers, and they're working like in the middle of the night out in the bush. And I went there, and they just have like old brooms. One guy was going off in like probably his daughter's pink bike helmet. They have like no protection. They have really bad tools to use to fight the fires, and they just go in the back of an old truck, and they go there trying to save the village basically, and they have very little support. And one year when it was really bad, there were volunteers who died in the fires, but they were not like considered firefighters because they were volunteers, so it's not like official that they're dying, but they are. And so that's something that I personally and my team too, like we want to support them because they keep us safe, because the air is not safe to breathe here for like probably 2 months at the moment. The other thing we do is I set up like a microfinancing project. Okay. The other social issue that I discovered through running the business was loan sharks. So local people cannot get loans from the bank, so they borrow from someone in the village, sometimes it's family, and the interest is so ridiculous that they spend a decade paying off 5,000 baht or something, And so we set up a program. After employees have been with us for 12 months, they can get interest-free loans up to 50,000 baht, and they just pay it back monthly to us with no interest. So we successfully got like all of our team out of debt, which is great.
Wow.
Because, I think like having debt is an awful feeling, and just being stuck in that loop, and
exactly
the shame may be connected to that. I think it also has a lot of mental ill health issues related to debt in like many countries, but here it's over the smallest amounts. So I'm really glad that we can help with that. I've done several interviews before with other people, and I think that something that I've learned through those interviews is that my connection to nature is really the foundation of why I have the business that I have. I grew up in Australia. My parents had a farm, and we were very sustainable. Like we had a cow and churned our own butter, and we grew all our own vegetables and fruit, and we exchanged our produce with neighbors. So I grew up in this very kind of sustainable community environment. And and I guess in my 20s, I went off to the city, and, I went to Japan. I speak a few languages, so I'm very interested in people and culture. And Yeah, and then I guess we landed in Thailand about 12 years ago. And at that point, I gave up work to be a mum, a full-time mum. And then my husband, who's a programmer, he was working as a programmer, IT guy, and I was raising the kids. And of course, you know, there's plastic everywhere. And I went home and I was talking to my father, who will be 90 soon. He's quite old. I'm the youngest of 6 daughters, so I have quite older parents. And we were discussing plastic and how, you know, it's so awful. And my mum, who's always cooked everything from scratch, and we never had any kind of packaged or processed food growing up. For me, it's always kind of, it's superfluous, I guess, to buy food in so much packaging. And, you know, he had mentioned that his mum, they also grew up on a farm. She would use this beeswax soaked fabric to wrap the food because they only had an ice box. They didn't have a fridge. And it was used to keep food fresher longer, and it preserves food because beeswax is antibacterial. And that's where the idea came from. And showed people really wanted a solution. And I think, you know, bombarding people with like plastic is a problem. And of course it's awful, you know, there's plastic in us. There's like a credit card worth of plastic in our bodies now. We don't know the real detrimental effect of microplastics. It's in the food. It's unbearable for people to listen to sometimes, I think, at this point. And then they find our products or other reusables, and when they use it, they can be part of the solution, which makes them feel joy, I feel like. So that's kind of part of our production too, is to put something available and in the hands of the people that they can be part of the solution and not feel so helpless. Yeah. I love the name.
Thank you.
Life is great because, you know, I think that looking at your website and your social, it's like it does instill happiness, and you're doing really good work, and we are really happy to be working together with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes. I do understand your pain with marketing, like having to get a plan. We also, like, marketing is always such a time-consuming, like kind of undefined. Sometimes you just don't know what the return on an investment is in different forms either. You can work so hard at marketing and get very little sales, but sometimes, you know, great collaborators. So yeah, marketing is hard, and it really, especially if you're a digital platform, you have to work so hard at it now. And these days it's getting harder and harder, and the algorithms are, like you said, really against the little guy and really more towards the bigger platform.
Exactly.
And it's just about education and trying to stick together. It's difficult because, like, you know, it's amazing what you're doing actually, and your mission is so great. And like you said, people, you go to conferences, or I go to like academic kind of events, and people are just like talking a lot, but you know, there are small businesses like mine and yours who are actually doing it, but we're not like academics, so we're not often like invited to talk or to share our story, or, you know, the doers, the people that are executing the mission, I think could be better supported as well. Like if we were in other countries, like if I started this business in Australia, there would be a lot of grants, for example, available to a business like yours that has that kind of mission. But here it's kind of limiting, especially if you're a foreign-owned business. So it is tough, and, you know, I support you. It's difficult. Yeah.
So thank you so much for that. The word of appreciation means a lot, I think, because it's not just word. You have also shown with your action what you stand for. So we know that anything that comes from heart really touches us.
Sometimes, like when we say like social enterprise or companies that work from the heart, like people just think, I think the kind of status quo is like they're small businesses and they're struggling, but I think it's our job as like socially conscious businesses to succeed and to show and to inspire, you know, like just because we're a social enterprise doesn't mean that we're like mini and not doing anything. Actually, we're really like successful, and people can be successful when they work from the heart. You don't have to be an awful business person. And this is like something, sorry, I'm on, but I'm really passionate about this point right now because recently I was invited to the university to be a part of a conference. And all of the academics were speaking so badly of businesses. They were like the enemy in the discussion. And I was like, oh, that doesn't sound right, you know, because there are businesses who are doing good that could also show you how to run a project, because academics sometimes might not be good at project management. And so the collaboration between like academic ideas and business, I feel like they're not working together properly. And that, you know, that collaboration could definitely improve.
Correct.
In my humble opinion.
No, I completely agree with you.
I think it's a good idea. There's definitely power in numbers and collaboration. We also collaborate with different companies. There's one in Kopangan called Able, who are like teaching kids, because education is a really big thing. Like coming up is, you know, school holidays, like children in sustainability could also be a theme.
Yeah.
And we have workshops where we teach people how to make beef wax wraps. So having like, I don't know, kits to make things by yourself is also where you empower people to like make something, you know. I think this is good. We work with Greenpeace on that. Sure, I mean, if you have themes, I'm happy to play along. I like a good like theme or something to focus on, and then just talk around it, even if it's discussing how things can be improved in our communities or in our businesses. I'm interested in that. I'm so happy to be working together with Happy Life during this month and more months for Plastic Free July. They're a wonderful partner to us with a great mission, and we're really happy to be collaborating with them. Have a happy life.
Wow! Single take, my goodness.
I have acting skills, it seems. Maybe.
Wow, it's amazing.